You're live on Facebook.
All right, what's going on, everybody?
You're live on Instagram.
All right, sweet. How you doing, everybody? This is Dr. Schilling from Sequoia Health, bringing this week's Wednesday Wellness Minutes, and this week we're going to talk about stress and eating. A lot of people have a challenge with this, so we want to give you some basic information about what you can do about it, how to thwart it or stop it from happening in the first place, and how to plan your meals, if you will, as far as going forward and saying, you know, I have a challenge I'm facing. How do I go about overcoming this? So first and foremost, you want to understand that the hypothalamus part of your brain, which is anatomically somewhere in here, what you want to appreciate is that it controls your satiety. Satiety means your hunger levels. And in fact, manufacturers of food will oftentimes tinker with the composition of foods in order to add a lot of salt to it and things like that in order to trick your hypothalamus into thinking it's not satisfied, and you end up eating more. So understand that things that are high in salt, foods that you purchase in a box and things like that, or even broths and stuff like that that are higher in salt, are going to cause you to eat more because you're going to be tricked into your brain thinking, I haven't been satisfied, I haven't been eating enough. So aside from that, other chemicals that can affect us, MSG is a big one. It's a neuroexcitotoxin. MSG, of course, most commonly associated with Asian foods, if you will, but at the same time, it's big time use in packaged goods. Monosodium glutamate, pardon me, is what you want to look for on the label, because they're not going to put like a big stamp on it that says contains MSG. Hey, come on, buy this. It's not going to happen. But also you want to appreciate that pesticides, which are laden all over our crops that are non-GMO, and even some that are, the ones that are genetically modified have pesticides all over them. So the ones that are non-organic are full of pesticides, and that can affect you when it comes in because it can trick your brain into making you think you're not eating enough and you're eating more. That's one aspect. But there are some organic, non-GMO foods that are actually affected by these pesticides as well. It just depends on, grapes are a big problem for one. Strawberries are another big problem as well. Things can be grown organically, but then taken off the farm or off the vines and whatnot, and then once they're shipped off the site, they've been raised organically, but you don't know how it's going to be processed and who's going to take care of it. So keep that in mind. Just never assume anything. They're in the business to make money. They're not in the business to watch out for your health. They're not your health watchdogs. So one thing you want to appreciate is people who tend to eat sugar, white refined sugar, any sugar of any sort, added sugar, junk foods, things in boxes, things like that, and people who drink alcohol on a regular basis tend to eat more. So if you find yourself eating more white sugar or any type of sugar, eating junk food, foods in boxes, and or drinking alcohol on a regular basis, you find yourself you're going to tend to eat more. Okay, so that's a challenge for a lot of people. In order to blunt the cravings, what we want to do is consider using sweetened foods, foods that are naturally sweet is what I was trying to say. Think of mangoes, think of dates are a really good one. They're low glycemic, but you can get coconut covered dates. Those are fantastic. You can use supplements like adaptogen. I'm saying it right here. There you go, adaptogen to help the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenal, and all the rest of the axis of the hormones. That's a fantastic tool. There's also a product called Amla, AMLA powder, and it's most commonly associated with skin and hair and stuff like that, but it's really good for thwarting these cravings. So keep that in mind. That's helpful for tips to use in order to stop those cravings. We'll get into some more ideas on how to stop those. But you want to understand the common approach for people that overeat. They tend to say, okay, let's throw some tryptophan at it, because then you're going to boost your serotonin, then you're going to feel good, then you won't have to eat so much, okay? The problem is we already get a ton of tryptophan from meat. We already eat, in our culture, we eat a ton of meat, a ton of animal product. So we already get a ton of tryptophan in there. And if you're not careful, the body can produce what's called quinolinic acid, which is a byproduct. So tryptophan can shift into serotonin or quinolinic acid. And if quinolinic acid is too abundant in your body, it can become like a neuroexcitotoxin, just like MSG can. So just understand, if you get too much tryptophan, if you're supplementing tryptophan at a high level, you run the risk of potentially causing that quinolinic acid level to rise and affecting your brain from an similar to an MSG standpoint, things like that. Reduce the cravings from a different way. So if you're a sugarholic or an alcoholic, or one of the two, or somewhere in between, understand that your brain is wired, right? You've inherited something. We call it a miasmatic stress, or an inherited stress, where you're actually something came in on your DNA that predisposed you to actually having this issue. So whether it's alcoholism or sugarholicism, or whatever ism you want to call it, you want to understand that that's going to be a problem. And one way that those two individuals, specifically sugarholics and alcoholics, can help calm themselves down is to use glutamine at the time on a regular basis or at mealtime. So people that overeat should use glutamine at their mealtime. But people who tend to eat a lot of sugar or drink a lot of alcohol, it's because they typically have low glutamine levels in the brain. Now, glutamine's a little bit of an odd duck because some people say it can cause cancer to increase in size or replication styles. But these people that are having these challenges, it's typically more a neurotransmitter, okay? Glutamate to GABA, glutamate to glutamic acid, and things like that. We don't go the whole nerdy route, but understand that glutamine is helpful for certain people that are lacking it. So forgive me while I take a drip of water here. So that's something you want to take into consideration for when you're talking about sugarholics and alcoholics. One good way of reducing the cravings for people who tend to sit down and just, they're going to the buffet and man, they just can't stop themselves. Literally, they feel like they can't stop themselves. One good way to do it is have a raw fermented food right before you eat anything else. Okay? So again, raw organic food, fermented, that's eaten right before anything. You have 1 cup of that before you eat anything else. And that is almost guaranteed to slow you down and stop you from overeating because your body is going to start processing that and it's going to cause some chemical reactions as far as the microbiome goes in there. It's going to change the whole kit and caboodle. Like that whole system is going to change. So 1 cup of organic raw fermented food is a great way to stop that overeating. Some people have a tendency, and please hear me when I say this, of course this can be misinterpreted, taken as negativity and anything like that. But when you understand that some of us have a tendency to either overeat or hold on to weight or have different body composition challenges, there's some type of secondary benefit we're getting potentially. And that can be a protective mechanism. So some people hold on to weight because it's a barrier to keep them away from people. Okay, so because if they've been wounded in the past, what can happen is their nervous system says it's not safe for them to be close to people. So their body will literally subconsciously hold on to weight and keep people away. It avoids intimacy, it avoids being socializing, and a bunch of other stuff. Now, no one in their right mind would say, I would love to hold on to weight. That's fantastic. That sounds like a brilliant idea. No, of course, no one ever say that. No one says, hey, slap on a couple over here. No, it doesn't work like that. That's not the point of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when there are wounds in the brain and when there are chronic unrelenting stresses in relationships or in life that cause people's nervous systems to get locked into this, that can cause the brain to hold on to things, okay? Tissue is one example, okay? So there are secondary reasons why the body might hold on to these things, okay? Just so you understand. There are reasons why the brain drives us into eating certain things, so I'm going to go into that right now. So sugar and carbs. Not able to handle struggles, okay? Not wanting to struggle. If a struggle comes into life and you're like, oh my gosh, here comes another thing, I'm going to lose my mind, you tend to go toward the sugar and carb route. They call it comfort food for a reason. So when life gets stressful, you dip into the sugars and carbs. So you don't want to struggle. Some people even though, so think of foods or beverages or whatever it might be as calming down the angst within our nervous system. So when we feel like we're struggling, our nervous system says, you should go eat a bowl of that or a bunch of that or something of that in order to calm down those feelings. So it sedates them, right? It upregulates certain brain chemistry and then sedates those feelings as angst and whatnot. So gluten in the form of pasta or bread or rice or stuff like, not rice, but pasta and bread specifically, but you can have wheat pasta. That's going to come into not able to handle or not able to hold things together is kind of the theme that goes along with that. Some people actually might, if they really tend toward wheat, that can be feeling defective or like they're not mounting up enough. They don't mount up to enough. So what we do is we eat that stuff in order to calm down those feelings. Okay? Remember, nothing happens for no reason. There's no happenstance in the body. If you're experiencing a symptom or a desire for something or an inability to control X, Y, or Z, it's because something's going on in your brain. Simple as that. And your second brain, or sometimes people argue that the gut is the first brain. So first brain, second brain, first brain, whatever you want to call it. Those can be very much interplaying. So whatever happens in the gut, as far as the microbiome goes and the biochemistry, that affects the brain through the vagus nerve. Okay, just as many signals go from the gut to the brain as the brain to the gut. It's pretty fascinating. So dairy, if you're finding yourself unable to nurture or unable to love or some type of challenge there as far as relationships go, that could be, someone feeling like they have a family member that's struggling and they can't nurture them, so they get all this stress and then they run off and they eat a bowl of ice cream. Whatever. No, I don't know. Just one example, okay? Or a pile of cheese or whatever it might be. So you want to understand that there's a reason behind this. So just understand, unable to nurture, unable to love is a reason why people might get triggered by dairy. Not able to be in control is related to the number one abused substance on the planet, which is called coffee and caffeine. Just look around the corner, or both directions. You probably see a Starbucks or a Caribou or Dunn Brothers or somebody in some direction, because it is under the most demand out of anything on the planet. It's more socially acceptable than alcohol. People don't walk around drinking all day, although some people are functional alcoholics. But the caffeine is the stimulant. The problem with the caffeine is that it just trashes your adrenals, totally wrecks your cortisol cycle, messes up your pineal gland, you can't sleep, you get jittery, heart racing, things like that. So last but not least, chocolate is related to codependency, wanting to feel better. So just generally speaking, wanting to feel better. And of course, not wanting to handle everyday life stresses. So when things become overwhelming, chocolate is a wonderful haven, okay? If you feel like you're sacrificing yourself for everybody else, which is kind of what codependence is, that's when you come into the, I need to eat chocolate to cover up my codependence, or make my body not feel that codependent tendency anymore. So you eat chocolate, you don't feel like you have to sacrifice yourself for everybody anymore. That's pretty cool. But wanting to feel better is a general idea. So, I mean, I don't know. For anyone who loves chocolate, everybody feels better after eating chocolate. It's kind of a no-brainer. But this should be helpful as far as understanding why you might be stress eating and what to do about it, right? If you're overeating, can't stop yourself, grab that fermented food and eat that before you eat anything else. It will slow you down. Some people say drink a whole glass of water before you eat anything. That'll slow you down too. There's a bunch of different ways, but just wanted to help you understand why you or someone you know might be stress eating, and just to have some compassion for yourself and for others, because quite frankly, it can be stressful for you just as much as it's stressful for people who love you. Okay, so understand that everybody's got their own triggers. Using this as information to help you understand what your triggers are will be beneficial. If you have a food that you tend to overeat or not be able to stop yourself from eating, or eat very commonly and you're concerned, like, what does this mean? Give us a call, send us an email, comment below. We'll be happy to comment about what it might be for you. We don't know anything specifically about your past history or what might be triggering you into feeling those certain things, but what's really important is that you want to understand if you're having a craving or being driven to do something, there's a reason behind it, and we can help you understand that, okay? So give us a comment below. Do your friends and family a favor and share this with them so that they understand how they might be being affected by certain foods or beverages and things like that. And please comment below so that we understand what you're interested in learning about.